Dragon Knight, one of Dota's many classic staples as old as time itself, has finally re-emerged from his peaceful slumber in the off-meta containment zone, and he's never been better. Anabolic steroids, high-protein meals, Aghanim Scepters, the Dragon Knight diet that courses through the veins of every monotonous Dragon Knight enjoyer. According to DotaBuff, this creep of a hero is currently the 6th most popular hero this month, sitting at a 54% win rate. Core Dragon Knight is something we haven't seen in fuck who knows how long. The last time we saw Dragon Knights, they maxed stun first and built Meteor Hammer. So what's all the fuss? Why is Dragon Knight such a good core, and how do you play it? Patch 7.35c literally just came out, so I've had to rewrite my script again. But don't worry, Dragon Knight is still really good, so don't be scared to hop on the train before the next big patch rolls around. There's so many reasons for Dragon Knight's resurgence in today's meta, but we'll keep things short and sweet. One of the things that makes Dragon Knight a winner right now is his build, his big three: Aghanim Scepter, Manta Style, and Mage Slayer. Aghanim Scepter gives Dragon Knight a 4th level to his ultimate, allowing him to become the Black Dragon. This upgrade gives him free pathing and dragon form, bonus corrosive damage, increases his splash damage from 75% to 100%, increases his slow amounts, 20% magic resistance, and the pass. Manta Style. Stat-wise, it's a great package for Dragon Knight, and it not only provides him with a dispel, more movement speed, it straight up triples his damage output. Whatever the illusions hit will deal 100% of the splash damage in a 350 radius alongside you, and they too as well have all the benefits of corrosive breath and free pathing. And lastly, Mage Slayer is exactly as titled. It slays mages. This item increases his survivability with 20% magic resistance, provides him with much needed mana regen, nicely pads his attack speed and makes his attacks reduce the opponent's spell damage whilst applying a DOT on top of corrosive breath. These 3 items have become essential hard requirements, and they allow him to be played in any of the core roles, as they enable Dragon Knight to be quite flexible and versatile due to his innate tankiness, his carry potential, and pretty much every ability in his kit. For example, his Q is a nuke that reduces attack damage and applies the current level of Dragon Form's corrosive breath. He has a stun which increases in cast range during Dragon Form, that can even become AoE, and his Dragon Form turns him into a ranged hero who's even tankier, hits even harder, and makes him more mobile. All of this makes him capable of taking on different roles and taking many different approaches in a singular game of Dota, meaning he can fill in any gaps that could be present in your team's draft. Now playing it though, pulling it off, well, that's exactly why you're here. I personally like to play my Dragon Knight a little differently, considering I have an IO strapped to me in every single game like he's my pacemaker. So you won't be seeing any Tortellini copy pastes from me. It wouldn't be an MJK video without the MJK personal touch, now would it? My starting items consist of Tango's Quelling Blade, Orb of Venom, and 2 branches, and upon entering the game, queue up Orb of Corrosion, a wand, and Power Treads. I see you raising your eyebrow already. For me personally, Orb of Corrosion's rework gives a load of early game value to a hero like Dragon Knight with its additional armor, slow, and most importantly, 25 attack speed. Now, this is just my personal preference, so if it's not your cup of tea, just go buy Bracer components. Anyway, Dragon Knight has a relatively low attack speed in the early game, with a base agility of 16 and 2 agility per level, so an early Orb of Corrosion really helps out nicely in contesting last hits and denies, and should give you a bit more courage for those early kill attempts. When you pick up Power Treads, that's a total of 50 attack speed, and without them being set to agility. Another item you can pick up to make your time smoother in the laning phase is Wraithband, another personal preference of mine, so if you're not a fan, just go Bracer. It provides more armor and attack speed, which feels incredibly good, especially when you take into consideration the way we're approaching our skill build. Start level 1 with Q. Use this ability to secure range creeps and harass the opponent. Keep in mind what I said earlier. This ability has a 30% attack damage reduction on anything it hits that lasts 11 seconds, so use it to contest the lane easier and shake off kill attempts. Once you reach level 2, take a point into your passive, and once level 3 comes, it's time for pure steroid-fueled aggression. Take W. During the laning phase, we'll use it to either make kill attempts or stop them in their tracks. After, continue putting points in Q until level 6, where you'll take your ultimate, then take your last point in Q. Yes, I know, this skill build is very aggressive, and that's the point. Like I said before, it wouldn't be an MJK video without my personal touch in every aspect of my games. And more specifically, this personal touch perfectly showcases my unhinged approach to play every hero in the game as aggressively as possible. Not your thing? That's understandable. Stick to the norm. Playing in the offlane? Definitely ignore everything I said and stick to the norm. Why? Because we did the MJK quality test, so you didn't have to. Trust me. From there, continue leveling stun or passive, or level both equally. Once treads and corrosion are picked up, it's time to start looking towards items that will assist your transition into the next phases of the game. This item we've already discussed earlier on, Mage Slayer. Mage Slayer is the next step, and the current natural build progression for Dragon Knight. He greatly benefits from this item in almost every way I mentioned previously, and its decent price tag and build path makes it even better. But here comes the MJK twist, Maelstrom. Thanks to Maelstrom's rework, this item I believe is a very good contender situationally. Despite not providing as much attack speed as Mage Slayer, Maelstrom can still go a long way, allowing Dragon Knight to boost his early game farm, with Maelstrom procs appearing more frequently thanks to its added attack speed, allowing him to not only obtain Mage Slayer and even future items just that little bit faster, but increase his overall pushing speed and dish out even more DPS during fights. Keep in mind I did say situationally, so recognize when you need it and when you don't. Which brings us to our next topic, core items, which we've already discussed in detail at the very beginning, but not in which order you should purchase them, which is actually just as important to keep in mind. The order goes as follows: Mage Slayer, Manta Style into Agnum Scepter. This order should be strictly followed, as it's the most efficient progression path that lets you reap the most benefit from the items and your hero. Mage Slayer obviously makes playing this creep just that bit more bearable and impactful during the early stages of the game, and this item is definitely one that's going to stick around for the long haul. Manta Style coming next is a no-brainer. Manta provides a good amount of stats and utility during the mid-game as you farm towards Scepter. Extra movement speed to help you keep up with your opponent, a Dispel is incredibly vital for a tanky hero that's easily hindered by crowd control, and the illusions still take advantage of splash damage provided by level 2 Dragon Form. Then Agnum's comes next, and the timing couldn't be more perfect. This path of progression will ensure you have level 3 Dragon Form by the time you purchase or get close to purchasing Ags, meaning Agnum Scepter will provide the maximum effect it could possibly give you and ensure you receive the full benefit. Like I said, this item progression is strict, even for your good friend MJK. And of course, some items and situationals can be thrown in here and there, of course, that's all good. But I do have to agree with the meta this time. Don't make the silly mistake of purchasing Agnum Scepter too early. If you buy it before Manta, chances are you're nowhere near max Dragon Form, so all you get is an extra level on it. Congratulations. No Black Dragon, which is the main selling point. On top of that, you have no utility, a measly amount of extra stats compared to Manta, and you'll probably just end up delaying yourself, which will probably end up costing you the game. But I digress. Dragon Knight is the type of core that, if in the right hands, can make an impact a lot sooner than others. So keep that in mind both while pursuing your core items and throughout the general course of the game. Your opponent's tower will eventually fall. This is fact, as the tower used to be standing, but now it no longer is. What does this fact entail? It means it's time to be a bit more proactive and responsive to what's going on around the rest of the map, especially if your ultimate is off cooldown. If it's off cooldown, communicate this to your team. Dragon Knight is merely a creep, but as soon as you press R, you become a very strong creep. So be a good core, make an effort, come to your team's aid, and fight. Winning fights with your team can result in a very nice snowball effect and give you the upper hand. A one fight can transition into a speedy push, and sometimes there's potential to keep it rolling all the way to their front door. And that's all thanks to Dragon Form. When Dragon Form's on cooldown, and there's no objectives left that can be safely taken, or any advantages to capitalize, you can go back to happily farming. While farming, it's important to take note of your Q, Breathe Fire, and it's going to be incredibly handy in these later stages of the game, and yes, we do have to discuss it again. During whatever downtime you might have in general, this ability allows you to pressure and farm lane creeps and the jungle relatively quicker thanks to the addition of Corrosive Breath being applied even without being in Dragon Form, so keep that in mind, as this little addition is one of the big factors that have contributed to Dragon Knight's farming and pushing capabilities in 7.35. Now let's discuss the game plan once the final piece of your core kit, Agnum Scepter, is obtained. To be honest, it's relatively simple from this point. Essentially, you will have a much easier time getting your way in how you want to approach each engagement in the playing field, since you are now in possession of an immense power spike that you should capitalize on immediately to close out the match, full stop. Whether it be during fights, sieges, or just map pressure in general, you now have many ways to approach and apply yourself in any of these scenarios, because of all the benefits your core kit provides to you. Survivability, mobility, DPS, all of the above. You're more than capable of leading the charge and switching up the plan on the fly, all while being a death-bringing, hard-stomping nuisance. Sounds simple enough? Good. But if the game's not over yet, then let's look towards situationals and extensions. The final topic. Here's what you might need to amplify your gains and finalize your victory. After Agnum Scepter, there's a wide range of extensions and situationals to consider that suit our every need. Firstly, Blink Dagger, a classic staple that adds maneuverability and initiation to your kit. You can purchase it after Agnum Scepter, or even earlier if you wish. Eventually, purchase Overwhelming Blink for its added strength and slow to make your entrances to all future engagements even more horrifying. Bloodthorn is an excellent choice for Dragon Knight, providing an incredible amount of attack speed, an active that silences, provides true strength
strike against the opponent for 5 seconds, and deals 60% of the damage dealt during that 5 seconds as bonus damage. Daedalus is another classic staple item that works exceptionally well with the splash damage provided by Dragonform, allowing you and your illusions to absolutely mince anything and everything unlucky enough to be caught in its radius. Satanic is a great choice if extra survivability and dispels are needed, as it provides 25 strength, which is equal to 550 health and 25 damage. 30% lifesteal, and the active will dispel you upon activation and provide 145% lifesteal for 6 seconds. Octarine Core, unironically, is a really great choice, providing a nice chunky amount of bonus HP, mana, and mana regen, and most importantly, cooldown reduction. With Octarine Core, you'll only have a downtime of 15 seconds between each dragon form, assuming you manage to live throughout the entire duration, allowing you to keep fighting and keep the pressure on. Situationals to consider include Skadi, Hurricane Pike, Linken's Nullifier, and Moonshard. And if you want to get a little experimental with some ideas that I have yet to fully experiment with, try out Parasma. It's actually kind of fun. But that's all for now, folks. I will see you in the next patch.